JLBWHO1701 here, and today we're going to be reviewing the novel Warrior's Gate and Beyond, which of course is the Target novelization of Warrior's Gate, with a couple bonus stories at the end, which we'll get into as well. Now, this was sent to me by one of my subscribers. I believe Simon sent this one, if I remember correctly, which I appreciate. He also sent me Silver Nemesis. Simon's been a huge supporter of the channel, so I certainly appreciate it. And I like Warrior's Gate a lot. The TV episode, I really enjoy it. I tend to like a lot of season 18. And I think they pulled off the visuals for it very effectively. So this was actually a really good read. It is interesting because a lot of times the novelizations aren't just straight retreads of the TV episodes. They kind of do either other things, or they flesh them out, or they could be told from different points of view. This one fleshes out the TV episode. It just adds more to it. It actually gives us a prologue, basically, that explains how the privateer ship ends up in that kind of nowhere area where Warrior's Gate takes place. We don't get that in the TV episode, but we actually see what the events that caused them to end up not making it where they were trying to go. That's really neat. We see how the TARDIS ends up there as well. And that's explained better. I can't remember if the TV episode appropriately does that. One thing about the book is it explains things clearer, because sometimes things in Warrior's Gate can be a bit confusing. It's like trying to watch Ghostlight. Sometimes you have to kind of guess with maybe some of the stuff going on. The book makes things a bit clearer. It explains how one of the Thorals brings the TARDIS there, actively brings the TARDIS there, because the Thorals can see possible futures in different timelines because they don't exist in time the way we do. That's explained much clearer, and how he pilots the TARDIS there. It's just, for me, that's easier to follow. The Fourth Doctor still gets his quips in. It still feels like the Fourth Doctor, Tom Baker, which I like. The crew is expanded upon. The crew of the let's just call it the slaver ship, so it's easier. The slaver ship is just, the characters are expanded upon better. Not just the captain, but like kind of the first officer type character, Percival. There's a character, his name's like Lane. You know, by the end of the story, I at least had some kind of grasp on their personalities and where they fit into the hierarchy. There was one named Aldo and one named Waldo, which I think are kind of the comical ones in the TV episodes. They're in this as well. People don't think much of them. But you also have another kind of couple duo there too. I can't remember their names. That are kind of together. You have one named Nestor. So by the end of it, I at least had a little bit of grasp of their personalities, and they all had been developed at least some point of a personality. And that was pretty neat. I enjoyed that. It's neat because in the book, you know, you kind of hear thoughts from that character's point of view where you don't in the episode. So you know what's going on in various characters' heads. Like, I really like being able to see what's going through the captain's head a lot. And especially the fact that the captain thinks of himself as a great captain. He's a very merciful and good captain. He thinks very highly of himself, and that his crew should like him, when of course we all know he's a terrible captain. So that was really interesting. The way the novel paints a picture of this world with the blank nothingness really comes across in the episode as well, much like in The Mind Robber, where there's just a field of white. But when they're in the areas inside the mirror, the way it describes it transcends the episode itself, which it still looks good on TV. One I've always said about Warrior's Gate, I've mentioned this many times in videos, that Warrior's Gate is the type of story that is going to look very different depending on what decade it was made. If it had been made in the 60s, it would have looked one way. In the 70s, one way. The 80s, the 90s, the 2010s, the 2000s, the 2010s, the 2020s. It's going to look very different depending on which decade it's made in. Just because of the inherent story and the kind of sci-fi / fantasy aspect of it. It's utilized really well in the TV episode with that kind of late 70s, early 80s technology. It's pulled off very effectively, but it can't compare to what my imagination creates reading the book. So where the Doctor's walking through this kind of garden area, and he's walking through it. And he starts to think he's walking through the same area, or different areas that look the same, and he realizes it's the same area at different moments in time, which is why it looks slightly different at different times. The way it describes the area on the other side of the mirror, I'm able to picture that in my mind. And it's much more surreal than anything a Doctor Who budget could do in the 80s. It cannot compare to, as the Flyattractor calls it, the movie in my mind. Kind of a term he brought up one time that's kind of stuck. The movie in my mind that my imagination creates is far superior. And it does a good job of explaining this other area much better. It does a good job of, I like them, explaining how the mirrors work and how you can go through them. Like in the TV episode, it's like the Fourth Doctor just knows because he's a Time Lord, so he can back through it. Whereas in the book, he finds out accidentally, because his hand had gotten damaged a little bit by the time winds, and when he put that hand onto it, it let him through. He kind of literally almost fell into it. I like that a little better. It's just the fleshing out of everything, learning more about the Thowels and how they work and what they are and how they move and see different points in time. It's just communicated better in the novelization than the actual episode, while still loving the original episode. The androids that are in it, that originally attacked the Thowel race back when they were masters of all, they're explained better. Their origins and their purpose are explained better. They feel more fleshed out and utilized in the novelization. The ending I like a little better. The crew actually has a bit of a twist ending. It doesn't just end with them getting blown up with the ship. There's actually a little almost epilogue with them that's really, really interesting. I really enjoyed it. And it also involves one of those androids as well. I actually really enjoyed the little bit they did there at the end. That adds a lot to the story for me. And I really liked it. We also had 2 sequel stories right at the end. They're very short. One involves, it's like the Carnish ring, the Carius ring, which involves Romana. It's kind of a sequel story for Romana, and she's still traveling with Laszlo, I believe is his name, one of the Thowels. They're kind of buddies, they're kind of partners, they travel together, and they basically have to fight an undead army. Not quite zombies, but ghoul zombie-like things. And it also involves a Union Civil War soldier, a 19-year-old Civil War soldier as well. He's actually very kind of at the heart of the story. It's actually really good. I really enjoyed it. It's not very long, but I thought it was a really interesting read and a great sequel. And then there is one more story at the end called The Book of Fate, which is also kind of a sequel story to Warrior's Gate as well, and it actually involves the 8th Doctor. So it's nice to get another little small adventure with the 8th Doctor. I like 8. We don't get a lot of 8. With him showing up on Earth in like the past, in like the 1800s. No, it's probably around the early 1900s, probably right after World War I think, because I think it mentions the Great War. So early 1900s, and him ending up at kind of a carnival show. And it's really good. I won't go into too many details on it because you really should read it just if you get a chance to read it. One, although I like having a little short story with the 8th Doctor. There is one part in there where he needs a little bit of money and he doesn't have any. So he goes, and it just mentions it as an aside. He basically went and challenged the champion boxer that was in town and then beat him. And then to make sure he got paid, he's like, "When if you give me my money now, I promise not to tell anyone." He's using like non-regulation gloves, or I forget what he actually called it, but basically the champion boxer was cheating. And the Doctor's like, "Look, I beat him, just give me my money and I won't tell anybody." And it's just done as so much of an afterthought. And it's weird because I don't really think of the 8th Doctor as a fighter, like a physical brawler. I don't think of him like that. He's not 3, So it's just interesting. It's like, "Oh, I need some money." And then it just basically, just really quick mentions that he went and beat up the champion boxer, got the money he needed, gave the rest of it away, took the sixpence he needed to pay an entry fee to get in. That's really hilarious, the way it does. That's really hilarious. But it's a nice little sequel story. I certainly enjoyed it. It was a really good read. Is it better than the TV episode? I like both, because I do love the TV episode a lot. It would be which one I'm more in the mood for. The book is definitely easier to understand. And I do love the extra bits they add. Where they flesh the story out does make it more enjoyable. But I also enjoy the TV episode. I mean, it's Tom Baker. I love Tom Baker. So I think I love them about equally. Although if you've ever watched Warriors Gate and been a little confused, the book does make things easier. So I would recommend that. So that's my thoughts on Warriors Gate and Beyond. I definitely recommend it. I know it's one of the new Target novels. You can see the new logo there. I want to know what you think of Warriors Gate, the TV episode, and if you've read the novel, what you think of the novel. Comment down below and let me know. Other things to do, don't forget to click the like button and the subscribe button. That helps me out, and I certainly appreciate it. I have a Patreon if you would like to support me on that. There are several different tiers to choose from down in the description below. I want to give a shout out to some of my top tier patrons, Stephen Crane, Colin Coney, and Finn Perkins. I appreciate their support, as I do the support of all of my patrons. I also want to give a shout out to Simon. I certainly appreciate him sending this. It was a fantastic read. I was actually having a new battery put in the car, my terminal heads, the connectors cleaned, and went ahead and got an oil change while I was there this morning. And so I took this with me as something to read while they worked on it, and I was like almost finished with it. I was only about maybe 30 pages away from being done with it when they finished. So that actually worked out quite well. I also do have a P.O. box. If there's anything you would like to send me, that's down in the description as well, as is a link to my Amazon wish list, which I update regularly if anyone wants to check that out. And YouTube memberships are available as well. Most importantly, though, thank you for watching.